Welcome back to the Crypto Factor. Welcome back to your favorite cryptopreneurship YouTube channel. I am here again with Gareth Soloway, an expert in charts, killing it with his calls lately. And since I ever knew him, actually. Gareth, how are you, man? Thank you for joining.
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you doing, buddy? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing good, man. Today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about gold. We're going to be talking about stocks. And right at the end, we're going to talk about 3 cryptocurrencies I want you to chart for me. 2 are very controversial. It's going to be funny. It's going to be cool. I'll tell you one of them is going to be Safemoon, just for fun. Of course, we're going to do XRP. And yes, I know that, you need to kind of a history when you're charting these things. So I'll make a really easy one for you. Let's put Luna. Let's see if you
Oh God,
you saw that loss of structure. It's very interesting. Okay, Gareth, man, get your charts up. Show us your magic. What is Bitcoin doing right now?
all right. So let's flip over to the Bitcoin chart here and take a look. And basically what we got on Bitcoin is, just kind of bouncing off this recent panic low. And we know that UST, the stable coin backed by Terra Luna, that had the collapse that caused this big sell-off here, kind of a panic in Bitcoin. But the beauty of this is, and this is where the charts really show themselves to be so beneficial. If you take a channel, right, and we connect a few of these major highs here. So let's do that right here. So you can see, again, connecting this high with this one here right through, and you just stretch that line down. Look at what we get. We get that low pivot right there. So that's where I bought a little Bitcoin just to trade, just looking to get out in, maybe 33, 35, maybe 38,000 is a high pivot. But that is the technical level right now. And again, working beautifully, as you can see this trend line, just holding price. I still think Bitcoin has further downside to go, but in the near term, it is at support. I do think that it will have a bounce back a little bit higher. And yeah, it's been fun right now.
So I bought the dip as well. I actually bought a 35,800. I was very lucky. I did it through my Exodus wallet. I just clicked the convert thing. It was the fastest way to do it as the prices were going crazy. But
Nice.
my question is for you. You mentioned it going and bouncing back to the 37 but 38 level. But wouldn't bouncing over the 36, 37K level could be a sign that if it closes and holds that, couldn't it be a sign for a new bull market?
Yeah, so the one key trend line I've been watching here for myself, which was it was a former channel that we had. So I think the last time we were on, we talked about this one where if you basically connect these lows and these highs here, and this was that bearish pattern when we had this big fall down here and then we chopped sideways, which told us the probabilities where we were going to break down. Yeah. And so basically, if we retrace, which is right around 38, it should bring us right back into that level. Now, if you get above that, that's where I would start to say, okay, now you're back in this channel. The bearish pattern, the bearish breakdown has failed. But again, for me, probably that 38,000 would be your max upside before I would start to get bullish. Above that, yeah, I think you have to get a little bit more bullish on it.
So let's go back to my 40K psychological call, which I was looking at the 40K psychological. You remember that? So what would it be fair to say 40K psychological to resume or start a new bull market or bull trend?
Yeah. So I would say, definitely since 38,000 is that trend line. If you got above that psychological 40,000, that even number, that's where you would start to say, okay, now we have, and assuming this is holding, right? So, I mean, you could peak above it. We've seen charts do that all the time, but let's say we stay above there for a week, 2 weeks. Now you got something cooking. I mean, there's definitely something that I would start to look for. I'd start to look for a bull flag development and further upside. And then if you do head up, the beauty of it is you have a couple levels to look at here. Number one would be this one here, which is around 44, 45,000. And then this one again up here, which is now about 51,000. That would be the next 2 levels of resistance. But right now, let's be clear, folks. Right now, the bear chart is fully, in control. We did hit support, so you expect a bear market rally. But until proven otherwise, this is a bear market, bear winter, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is for now.
Agreed. It's a technical bear market. We could put it like that.
Yeah.
Even with my parallel lines, same. It pretty much corresponds perfectly, man. So, what do you think altcoins will do on this bounce to the 36K level if it does do that?
Yeah, I think the altcoins probably get a bounce as well. I think what's important here, and this is the chart of Ethereum, we could take a quick look at that. But you had this key level right here, which really was the low, right? So really amazing how this pivot, like right here with this one, and that's exactly where you came down to it. So I'm kind of in the camp that I think most things are going to follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin ultimately follows the Nasdaq. So the Nasdaq, if we get some continued upside in the tech sector, that can move up. And I think again, you're going to look for some resistance on Ethereum. This low area kind of right here, which is around 24,200, and then maybe we can retrace into this area. And then same thing, just like with Bitcoin, if you start trading above this area and above this downsloping trend line, that's where you would enter that new bull market and where you could say, okay, there's something new cooking here.
Right. Now, if you can go back to Bitcoin real quick, I was actually watching one of your TA sessions. I can't remember which channel it was on, and it kind of schooled me a little bit. I think it was on your channel actually, but there was clips you took away. But before we go there, if Bitcoin continues to go down, do you still see that 20K level as your potential bottom for Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I think that's my high end target. So realistically, if we look at that 20,000, which was the high from 2017 back here, that would be that kind of high end. And let's be fair. I mean, just a couple nights ago, we hit 25,000. So I mean, we're getting real close to that high end target. I think as a technician, you have to look at all angles. So you have to say, okay, well, there's a possibility that 20 doesn't get hit. Maybe we won't come down to 20. But there's also a chance that we could go through 20 if there's extreme panic, if there's an extreme kind of reset. And the question is then, well, how low could we go? And to do that, one of the metrics that I came up with is what's called a measured move technique. So you take the high here at 69 to this low, and you basically notice that was a pretty much a straight shot down. Right. So that's a straight shot down there. Then you take the highest point on the consolidation bounce and you drop that another equal distance. And what you'll find is if you do a measured move, so this length to this length, you get a $12,000 price target, which would be my max downside target. Now, the reason why that has some validity aside from just measured move is because every bear cycle or winter that we've had prior in Bitcoin has dropped Bitcoin 80 to 85%. Well, if you take 85% from this high of 69,000, you basically get 12,000. So this would be a repeat of past cycles. Again, I don't know if that'll be hit, but that would be kind of my worst case scenario.
Yeah, that corresponds to Richard Hart's 11,000, by the way. Now, yeah. I'm looking at the 20,000. Well, here's what I was looking at, and here's where I was schooled. I said that, or I was under the assumption that Bitcoin never really reached its all-time high exactly before. It never dropped down to exactly its all-time high. That's why I was going for 24,000. That was my likely scenario. And yes, we could dip down below to the 17, 18K before we go up there. But you said something interesting. And I want you to repeat it because that was something I did not know or think about. It was something along the lines that if you believe it doesn't reach its all-time highs, it negates the 85% drop or vice versa. I can't remember exactly how you worded it. I think you know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is you have to go with what the chart's showing us, right? And right now we have a chart that has an M top with a double top over here. I'm not sure what I said before in terms of that, but basically what you might be referring to is if you don't necessarily reach your max extension to the upside, maybe you don't reach your max extension to the downside. So there is that theory, that kind of contemplating theory. My kind of counter trend to that would be that for me, we got down to 25,000 so far on Bitcoin, and you still haven't seen massive destruction in cryptos, right? So we did see the UST collapse. We saw Terra Luna collapse, but you still have, tens of thousands of Bitcoin or tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies that still have value. And if there's one thing I know about these type of market bubbles is that you have to see more of those go out of business. I still think Bitcoin survives and thrives. I still think Ethereum does. A lot of these best of breed ones will. But yes, we started to see the blood in the streets with Terra Luna, UST, but we need to see more of that. And the question is, how low does Bitcoin have to go and drag the whole crypto sector for us to really see that occur? And again, from the ashes of that will rise awesomeness, right? Great things with crypto and blockchain and everything, but we got to see that at this point. And again, it's hard to imagine that the low of 25 could be that low yet, considering you still have so many things out there that are still functional as in cryptocurrencies.
Would you take the high from April last year, or would you take it from November? And the reason I'm asking is, how long do you think we have left in this bear market? Would you call it from November, or would you call it from April?
Yeah, you would call it from November. I mean, really just the start of November. So it does make it 6 months longer than if you did it from over here about. But yeah, I mean, you really have to take from the highest pivot. That was the explosive, irrational exuberance of, the ETF launching that was the futures of Bitcoin and things like that. So I think you would take it from there. And then the question is, right, is, okay, well, past cycles, we've seen 12 to 18 months until we finally bottomed out and started turning back around. So we're well over 6 months, I believe, at this point, or about 6 months in. That could leave, basically 6 to 12 months more of rough markets. Now, remember, it could bottom and just kind of chop sideways for 6 months too. We don't really know, but the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, I would be highly suspicious of the idea that it's already bottoming here. We need to see more pain, unfortunately, in any market, including the NASDAQ, by the way. The equity markets, they're getting a bounce these last few days. This is just a bear market bounce, frankly.
What about in 2013, 2014? We had something quite similar where Bitcoin rallied twice. Mm-hmm. How did that work out?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Let's go back. Here we go. So here's your 2013, 2014 move. And you can see this was a pretty crazy move here on Bitcoin too, right? Yeah. Where you had basically a $15, $14 handle on it. You ran all the way up to 250. You then corrected down to 42. And then you had this mega run to about 1,300, right? Or 1,100, 1,200. So yeah, it's interesting to see that how you had this big pop blow off here, and then you consolidated before your next move. Is it possible that could happen? I mean, anything is possible at this point. So that's something you should keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about gold. Let's talk about what gold's doing right now, because we love our gold.
I love gold too, man. I love gold. So again, gold to me is doing exactly what it should do. I think we even talked about this last time I was on 3 or 4 weeks ago. We talked about how you had the breakout, but you needed to come back and retest what we call the scene of the crime, the breakout trend line. And I mean, it did. I couldn't have done it any better than this. And it went right into that level. So beautiful little hit right there. I do think that gold starts to make its way back up here. I also think you have to put gold in perspective. So number one, it's positive for the year, not up much, but if you compare it to what Bitcoin's done this year or what the stock market, I mean, people would be loving being in gold all year right now, right? And then the other side of the coin is, think about what the dollar has done. So usually when the dollar rallies, gold goes down.
Yes.
But look at the rally we've seen in the dollar, and then think about how well gold has performed in spite of that. That's very, very unusual. And what it tells us is that if the dollar really continues to pull back here, gold should be pushed up just by that means alone.
Yeah. Like a spring sort of effect, everything was bubbling up. Okay, what do you think about oil? Because I see two perspectives. Some people saying it's already topped out, or it could have already topped out and go down from now on, even though that will take a while. What do you think of oil?
Yeah, I'm in the camp that, for me, I'm having a real hard time with the bull case. I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about, when China reopens and then the oil price is going to shoot up even more and stuff like that. But, to me, it's just looking at the global picture and just being straight with it, right? So we know the Fed is increasing rates. We know Europe is borderline recession because of what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine war. And that all is detrimental to the demand side. So yes, maybe supply is restricted, maybe that, but at the same time, you have to think that demand is starting to come down as the economy weakens. Now you have talk that maybe by year end, we're in a recession here in the United States. And what is that going to do for the US's demand for oil? So for me, to me, I'm someone who looks at this and I think this trend line eventually breaks. And probably brings oil to 85, 84. And then I even think by November, by the midterm elections here in the US, you could be looking at $76 barrel in oil. So I am bearish on oil overall, even though it's performed relatively well this year so far.
All right. What about stocks? Where are you looking at stocks right now?
Yeah, so stocks. Stocks, I went long just over the last week, just for a trade, but you can see again why I did that. This is that long-term trend. It goes all the way back to 2009. The markets were in this range for the longest time. We then had the COVID surge, right? The collapse, and then the stimulus from the government and from the Fed. The massive stimulus put this market on steroids. And then look at where you bounced. I mean, literally right back to that upper line right there. That tells you that the probabilities favor a bounce. How high does it go? I don't think it goes that high, frankly. Like if I'm looking at the chart here, you have a pivot low right here, which would be my first level, which we're very close to. And then you have a secondary pivot right there. So, I mean, we're actually getting close to potential target here on the markets. But again, then I think you have to come back in this range at the very least. My longer term target by year end is actually all the way down here, which is the pre-COVID highs. So I think, again, if you think about everything getting sucked out of the market liquidity wise by the Fed, government's not passing any new bills here. They're not doing more checks to Americans. So you have to think that eventually the economy is going to weaken and you're going to see this market continue to come in.
Well, is there any stocks you're looking at that could be bullish?
Yeah, I mean, so there are, and these are more trades I can think about. So there are a few stocks that I will throw out. Actually, there's one in particular that I'm keeping a close eye on. That's not necessarily a short-term trade. It's maybe over the next couple weeks I should say the next 6 to 12 months. And that would be this chart here, which is Warner Brothers Discovery. They just merged HBO Max and Discovery. And the reason why I'm intrigued by this is, number one, the stock has been hammered down here. We just heard Warren Buffett took a huge position in Paramount, which is popping Paramount by like 15+%. And also later this year, the new Game of Thrones is coming out, right? So you figure that people will start to get excited as that comes closer. This is a stock that is very, very inexpensive relative to its peers at this point, with a relative good cash generation. And so again, these are the types of things I try to think outside of the box. I'm not going to go to trusty Apple. I think Apple's still overpriced. I'm thinking of stocks that aren't on the radar that have some catalysts later this year that could keep them up and maybe make them into good plays. On the other side of the coin, I think like stocks like a Zoom, something that's been beaten down so badly. Yes, it could go lower, but you're getting to levels now where you start to say, all right, well, maybe I'd commit 100,000, but let me start with 25,000 here. And if it goes 10% lower, I'll add another 25,000 and kind of accumulate some of these names down here, because they have been decimated. They've gone through their own .com collapse style drop. And I think, again, at some point, these start to make sense at these levels.
Got you. Okay, let's talk a little bit of some alternative cryptocurrencies, for lack of better terms. Let's talk about some altcoins. And let's look at XRP. Recently broke structure, went down even more. Looks like it kept support down there. What's going on with XRP?
Yeah, so you're right. You had this kind of wedge pattern right here, and it did break down just as Bitcoin was breaking down. It's amazing because if you look at Bitcoin's chart, Solana, Avalanche, I mean, they all broke down at the same time. They all had a major trend line that they broke. What's interesting about XRP is it hit this technical level here, and so far you are bouncing. Now, the question is, do you have enough energy in it? Can it get back to this line at around 57 cents? That's going to be first big resistance. And then really, if you're into XRP, you want it to take out this trend line, this downsloping one here. You need to see it start trading above that. Till then, you have to be very, very careful, in my opinion, because again, the crypto markets are scary right now. There's a lot of question marks. I honestly don't know what this judge's decision is going to be. It could be the greatest thing, or it could just be a negative for it. So be careful. But right now, you are bouncing off support. You got to recapture some of these levels for it to become more bullish.
Got you. Let's talk about Safemoon.
What's the symbol on that one is?
Oh my God, is it SFM? It should be SFM.
SFM. No, not on mine. Safe Fair. I can type it in. Safemoon. Is that it?
Yeah, Safemoon.
Oh, SFM USDT. All right, here's Safemoon. All right, here we go.
Surprises on there, to be honest with you.
What do you Tether? Let's see. All right, here we go. All right, there we go.
What do you make out of this? You look
wow.
At the data, you look at the data.
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, number one, so it had this crazy move up, and I mean, this is an inside bar pattern, so this looks like a mini little bullish pattern. So maybe it's positive. I honestly don't know. It doesn't have enough chart history for me to make an educated
Exactly. It doesn't have no history, but It's I'm expecting a dead cat bounce, just a small.
Nice.
If the crypto markets go up, I would not touch it at all. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see your view. Like if you saw this chart, right? If you just open up like any chart, right? Like and you don't know the name, would you even bother with this?
No, I wouldn't be able to, just because again, I need more than just, basically this looks like it started in January. And so again, for a technician to get those probabilities in the high reward, low risk setup, you need to be able to view history. And we just don't have history here.
It's funny. It started last year, actually. I think it was April. It was
Oh, okay. So maybe
on
this platform, it doesn't have that data fully.
And I called the all-time highs on it, and it's just been decimated since.
Amazing. Yeah.
People are still in denial.
That's always the way it is. You go through the same structures as when you lose, like something like a family or a loved one with investments. It's true.
Yeah. What about it's hope as well? It's hope, it's ego, it's like you're attached to it because you saw your money go up. You probably made a lot of money at some point, and when everything's going, you just don't want to let go. And it's like, and people don't understand that when something goes down 90%, because that's how much Safemoon went down, 90%, and he's 900% up just to break even.
Yeah.
I mean, another 100%. It's not.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that's what I keep on telling people about. Like, we talked about Zoom before, but I mean, same kind of thing is like, I mean, if you invest in Zoom here and it just goes back to $135, which is right here on the chart, right? I mean, if I zoom out, I mean, we're talking just right back to here. That's a 50% move. I mean, it's incredible, but those are people that are buying now. And then listen, it could go still down further, but again, to think that it's going back here is, I think, in denial for at least a long, long time.
Yeah, and that's a real company. But anyway, what about let's go to Luna. Did you see? I'll be honest. I FOMO'd in when Luna crashed, and I forgot to look at charts, and I forgot the rule of broke structure. Forget about it. Get out. I got greedy, so I'm going to admit that. And I tried to buy, and of course it got decimated. And then I'm like, I might as well stick in a few, $30 or $50 more, like a moron. Yeah. Because once you make one mistake, I'll tell you one thing I've learned in trading. As soon as you make one mistake, you're probably going to do every single mistake in the book.
Right. It throws you off your game. It throws you off
exactly, and you revenge trade, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And that was just dumb. But when would you have got out? What do you think? First of all, do you know about Luna? Do you know what Luna is?
Yes. Yeah. So first of all, just like you, I did invest in this. So when I was looking at the charts, it was collapsing down. I entered in the $40-ish range thinking, okay, well, it's down. It was into technical support. So I was using my chart know-how. I ended up averaging once. I accumulated a 5% position in the portfolio. And then at that point, I was willing to go, by the way, to 12% of my portfolio, because based on the market cap, I always structure how much I'm going to invest by, like, Bitcoin's going to be the biggest in my portfolio because it's the most stable, right? Yeah. Ethereum second. And Terra Luna is kind of in that kind of third tier. So I was willing to go up to 12% of my portfolio. At 5%, I said to myself, wait a minute. I started to hear what was going on. I said, all right, I'm going to hold it. You never know. Maybe it bounces. Maybe they get straighten this out, but I'm not going to invest anything more. Yeah. And thank goodness I didn't, because basically lost it all, Yeah. But again, position size is everything. And this, Paul, is like, it doesn't, you want to take shots, fine, but don't put your whole portfolio in a gamble. 2%, 5%, 3%, whatever, you can recover from that. 50, 80, 90, 100%, you're done.
Yeah, I didn't lose much. I initially had like 2,500 euros in, and then I bought another 600-700 euros worth at the 50% down sort of range there. And then I put another 30-40 bucks when it went even, down. That was a stupid thing. You'd be like, Paul, what's 30-40 bucks? Well, you take it out and you allocate it for another cryptocurrency that could be better. So it's actually more. You don't just lose 30-40 bucks or 600 bucks. You're basically losing opportunity costs and potential gains from another cryptocurrency.
Right. That's right.
Or less loss. So it's essentially it was stupid. But I think it's dead. By the way, I didn't do my research. I think that's important sometimes, because essentially what was going on is more Luna was getting put out.
Yes.
As UST, and that was something I just went over my head. I didn't even look into it. And that's where I think the
yeah, it's
biggest
essentially the
mistake
same thing as stocks do, right? When they have to raise capital, they have to sell more stocks, which dilute current shareholders. Same thing in this situation. They were trying to prop up the UST by printing more. And it just, I mean, literally, I think it was 300 million Terra Luna that went to like 5, 6, 7 billion. I don't even know how many billions, but I mean, it was just, I mean, it just basically makes them worthless. And people, you know, there's still people in it that are hoping it's going to bounce back. You know, maybe it goes back to a penny. You just never know. But I mean, there's so many out there now that it's not going back to $30, $40.
No, even if they burn it or anything, I don't think so. There's also trust. Plus,
yeah,
what would you say to this? Would you even touch this with a 10-foot pole?
No. At this point, you know, number one is, you know, once I got burned in it, it's like I kind of write it off my list. I'm like, let me, you know, because you don't know if you're going to act emotionally or lack, you know, really you need to trade without emotion. And sometimes when you get in a trade and it burns you, you kind of act with emotion. You want to get even, right? Oh, I'm going to get even. So that, and then also just the mere fact that it's, I mean, at these levels, I can't even read it. I mean, how do I even read that chart anymore? You know?
People are buying this, Gareth. People are actually buying this.
I know.
And
they might listen. They might make a tiny bit of money, but for me, it's all about like, how do I quantify? How do I do a risk reward assessment? Quantify a chart when the chart is totally broken, and I just can't.
Yeah, let's get off the charts a second, man. So the thing is, it's the most logical thing right now. A lot of people, teenagers, non-traders, people in Safemoon are buying a lot of Luna. And they're buying millions and they hear about billions. I have 1 billion trillion tokens and I have so much money. Look, I'm going to end it like this. The whole world's not going to become millionaires and billionaires. You're not going to do it. Just logic alone, it's dead.
Yeah. And I mean, I learned this the hard way in stocks too, is that, you know, you invest in crappy companies, they're going to give you crappy results. I mean, the same thing with coins. When they're broken, they're broken. And, you know, you have to start focusing on best of breed. You want to make consistent money. You know, there are people that will invest and get lucky and make a lot of money in a very short amount of time. That is not the usual thing. Just like you hear about people winning the lottery and we're all like, oh, I want to win $100 million. That was one person out of 1 billion. You know, like, you know, it's just not a likely scenario. If you want to build real wealth, you do it through quality investments in quality coins, stocks, etc. And it takes you longer, but you make way more money over the long term than blowing up your account.
Yeah. So make sure you follow Gareth Soloway up here and here. I'll also leave the links down below. Gareth, thank you so much, man, for coming back on. And I'll see you in about, 15 days-ish again?
Yeah, sounds good, buddy. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll talk to you then.
Thank you, man. Bye-bye. Take care.